Hey everyone, this is Blake, the author of The Art of Self-Directed Learning, and I'm really happy to see the Portuguese version coming out. Alex, thank you for making this happen. So I'm here to answer a few quick questions about the book and about my own life. The first one is, what's the role of self-directed learning in a world of big and rapid transformations, in a world where everything is changing all the time? I feel like the answer is obvious to this, but a lot of other people don't seem to see it. First of all, we're spending less and less time working in the same jobs. It's not likely that you're going to be working at the same place for 40 years. It's more like you're going to work at one place for 4 years or 3 years or 2, and then you're going to move on to another, and then you might change fields completely, and then you might start working in a job that didn't even exist 10 years ago. So there's no way you could have prepared for it with school or college. And so the world is becoming more entrepreneurial, and the time between big changes in our work lives is shortening. And I think that demands self-directed learning, not just for a few people, not for the crazy entrepreneurs. I think it demands self-directed learning for a majority of the people if you want to be able to switch between careers that make you, and switch into one that makes you more satisfied than another, and not feel like you're trapped and you're stuck and you're just doing the same thing that you've always been doing because you have no way how to direct yourself into a new path. Second question, what opportunities has self-directed learning helped me take in my own life? So a few examples. One, starting my travel business, Unschool Adventures. I had no idea how to set up a travel business. I had to Google stuff. I had to go talk to people. I had to actually go through the job interview process to work for a similar company, get rejected, and then decide to reach out to the person who rejected me to try to get information about how to start my own company, which is a very scary thing to do. Writing books. I think any sort of writing, whether it's as simple as writing a blog post or writing your 1,000-page memoir, writing has always been a self-directed challenge because you have to put something original and worthwhile on paper, and you have to figure out all the pieces yourself. And so that's fundamentally self-directed. So my self-directed learning skills have really served me as a writer. And finally, I don't really live in one place. I recently published a free online book called How to Live Nowhere, and that's about being a nomad, being a permanent traveler. And one of the reasons that I like to travel, not just in my professional life, but in my personal life, is that it demands constant learning. And whenever you go to a new place, you have to orient yourself. You have to learn how to get around, speak to people, pay for things. And I just love that. And so being a self-directed learner has made it easier for me to live a life of constant travel. And thirdly, what are my main self-directed learning challenges in my personal and professional life? There's a lot of overlap between the personal and the professional, so I'll just give you a few answers that are relevant to both of them. First one is motivation, and this is something that whether you are a 12-year-old who's not going to school, or you're a 21-year-old who've decided to stop going to college, or you're 25 and you're starting your first business, or you're 45 and you're thinking, okay, well I'm nice and secure now, but how do I keep pushing myself? I feel like motivation is just this constant human struggle, especially in more individualistic societies, and so I don't know. It's a non-negotiable part of being a human being and being a self-directed learner. And so the ways that I look at this are through a few more questions. Am I working on the right thing? How do I know if I'm taking my own path? Like, for example, I'm running my own business. Am I focusing on the right problems? Usually you'd have a teacher or a boss to tell you which problems to be working on. But as a self-directed learner, you need to be answering that question mostly for yourself. Am I making the best use of my time? Am I spending my time in a worthwhile way, or am I being really inefficient? And so that's a question that's difficult to answer, but you must answer also. And finally, how do I know if I'm stuck or I need to keep pushing? And so if you're going through a really difficult phase of learning about something, you might be in that deliberate practice phase, which I write about in the book, which is the part where the work is not fun. You just have to push through, do the repetitive stuff, and that's how you're going to build skills. But sometimes you're not doing deliberate practice. You're just going in a spiral, and you're not going to be gaining any skills. And so for all these reasons, I like to think, and I write in the book, and I need to constantly remind myself that self-directed learning is not the same thing as self-isolated learning. It doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself. You still should find mentors, you should find partners, you should have a community of people who support you. And that's what makes real self-directed learning happen. All right, thanks. Enjoy the book. Bye.